Newsologist. One world, many views. Yes, some of them.
Britain slides into crisis. The Times is saying this. Bank chief warns of a long recession. Interest rates rise, pushes up mortgage bills. It's a worst squeeze for 60 years. Get used to the grim new reality. Lights on the dashboard of the British economy are flashing red. Well, been flashing red for ages, but the Bank of England unleashed a catastrophic set of forecasts that would have been scarcely believable a year ago. Well, that's not true, because lots of people were saying that by printing all of this money and by the fiscal things that you were unleashing, this is exactly what would happen. So I'm not too sure. Yeah, some people might scarcely believe it a year ago, but lots of people were predicting it. You increase the money supply by this huge amount. What do you expect's going to happen? You lock people up with lockdowns, you break the economy, you break the supply chains, and you try and get the thing back up and trucking by just printing money, not creating demand. Just print more money. Latest projections show the economy heading for 5 consecutive quarters of negative growth from the end of this year, matching the crisis of 2008. Economy is set to shrink by 2% over that time. The most devastating element is an unprecedented 2-year contraction in household real incomes. Well, anytime inflation goes up, real incomes go down. That goes on every year. The worst since records began. I'm not too sure about that. The 70s were pretty bad. The political and societal effects of this generational inflationary spiral. Oh my goodness, what a sentence this is. The political and societal effects of this generational inflationary spiral have yet to play out. Wow. Basically, what it's saying is political. People get knocked because they've got no money. So in the next election, they give the kicking to the party that's in power. Societal, well, unions want more money, people want more money, people become generally dissatisfied, people become more narky. It gets harder to get the unions back in their box. You have to use bigger whips, more threats, get them back in there. Keep rowing, you bastards. 2%, people can just about manage that. You get 13%, things going up 13%. Something cost you £1 last year, it's going to cost you £1.13. You're on a fixed income, you're on a low, you have to pay. Descent, people become totally knocked. It brings into context other things as well. Other things will start to fail. You're not be able to get enough rail drivers, train drivers, not be able to get enough doctors, not be able to get enough of this. Your social services start failing. They're inefficient to start. Generational inflationary spiral. Yeah, it's generational. The last time I had a big spike like this was in the 70s. There wasn't people out on the streets. There wasn't people at the barricades and stuff like that. But it made it difficult. There was a lot of strike action, a lot of union people trying to get increases for the members, playing catch up. He's basically saying it's going to be like this for the next 2 years. Yeah, just grin and bear it. It's just going to get worse. Household energy bills will triple in October compared with the same period last year, hitting an estimated 3.5k. This could be climbing up to 4k, perhaps beyond that in January. Well, who knows? It could go down as well. These are just projections. Where you're basing it on these estimates, it's likely to climb. Who knows? Depends on the price of energy. Depends on the exchange rate of the pound. If the exchange rate of the pound goes down, then it could go up to 6,000. There's too many unknowns. Outlook will supercharge an already testy Conservative leadership contest, increasing demands to compensate families. Yeah, give everybody a load of money. Facing soaring gas, food, shopping bills. Sharply shrinking economy. Make it harder for ministers to find the money for tax giveaways. Yeah, if the economy is shrinking, that means your tax base is shrinking, which means either you have to increase the percentage of the tax to compensate for what you've committed to. One way out of this is always if you can grow your economy and grows the volume of taxes that you've got. The government's making commitments left, right and centre. There'll be another round of windfall taxes. There'll be another round of, we'll have to tax somebody more somewhere to get the money so that we can piss it up against the wall. How else are we going to pay the bribes? Contracts of the PPE to companies. How else are we going to cover for all these losses? How else are we going to do that? You live by the contract, you die by the contract. This whole thing of expanding the money's just been a complete and utter contract. Now they've been found out. They're just saying it's just going to get bad. There's no can do about it. We might give you some money to compensate for it, but it's going to be shit for the next couple of years. After months of caution, basically of inaction, of doing nothing, of looking the other way, although they realise what's going on, they can see the figures coming through. They can see which way the wind's blowing. They can see which way the leaves are getting wafted down the avenues. They can see all that. They've got the facts, they've got the figures, they've got hundreds of PhDs, they've got economists, they've got people looking at the economy. They know these things. You don't need them. People have just got to take yourself a walk down the high street, go into a petrol station, pay some bills, council tax up, insurance up, this up, that up, telephone bill up, milk up, bread up, food up. You don't need 1,000 PhDs to tell you that. You don't need if you people walk around. You should be able to tell that yourself if you're walking around. How much is it costing to put petrol in the car? Multiply that across the whole country. That's the amount of money which is being taken out of the economy. Realistically, people, if you're spending that on petrol, you cannot spend it on other things. Bank of England forced to tighten policy in the depths of a recession, a predicament. The old lady, that's the nickname for the Bank of England. There's not been in since gaining independence. Oh, you actually believe that? If anybody believes that, you know, I've got 5 or 6 bridges across the Tyne in excellent condition that I'll be able to sell you immediately. Come on, it's nowhere near independent, one or that. It's just a facade. It's just like one of them Hollywood sets. There's nothing behind it. The government controls the Bank of England. I should have said the Bank of England controls the government. Even after the government's 21,000 million pound cost of living measures, households are facing a drop in real income worth about 1.5% and 2.25% next year. A streak that has never been recorded in modern times. Well, what do you mean modern times? When's modern? Was 1970 not modern? Because that's happened then. The forecasts are unprecedented, but the reality is something Britain is going to have to get used to. Well, you've always got to get used with reality. You cannot change that. Bailey, the Bank of England governor, he said inflation's been caused, it's the Ruskies, it's them damn Ruskies and Putin, caused by Russia's restrictions on gas supplies. That's a load of bunkum. It had nothing to do with the sanctions that we imposed on the Russians, and you expect the Russians just to stand there and let you kick them in the balls. And they aren't going to do anything. I think he's wearing an Apple Watch, isn't he, by the looks of it? There's a little screen that's gone on there. Probably showing you how much money he's making there now. How much he'll be getting paid in the after dinner circuit once he leaves the bank. Britain heading for a protracted recession, inflation surges, drastic set of forecasts, bank said blah blah. Bank raised main interest rate to 1.75% when inflation's at 10%. Why didn't you raise it up to 2%? Oh, you cannot do that. Why not? That would stop inflation pretty quick. It would take the money out of the economy, which is what you're pussyfooting about doing. If you hadn't put the money into the economy, you wouldn't need to take it out. Households' real income, which is the value of pay after adjustment for inflation, will drop by 1.5%. Depends who you're working for. Bailey, the bank's governor, said the rise in borrowing costs was necessary to prevent inflation worsening and hitting living standards, blah, blah, blah. Further. Blame the consequences of Russia. Yeah, it's Putin. Putin did this. It's a Putin price hike. He's just playing the same card as Biden, just what it is. He's got huge sympathy. Yep, I've got huge sympathy sitting in me nice mansion and getting paid £500,000. I've got sympathy. Yeah. I've got a lot of empathy with them poor people. No admittance that it was some of my policies which caused this shitstorm. None of that. No contrition. No asking for forgiveness. I'm just, I'll show a bit of sympathy. Yeah. I've got to come across as a regular guy. Show a bit of empathy. Yeah. I've got huge sympathy. Not just sympathy. I've got huge. There's nobody got more huger sympathy than me for the downtrodden that I've just, wrecked people with all this inflation by printing all the money and keeping the interest rates so low. No contrition. Nothing to do with me. It's Putin. It's that Biden Putin. Now to do with me printing zillions of quids and pumping into the economy, keeping the interest rate so low that it made borrowing so easy. Now to do with me that. I recognise the significant impact this will have and how difficult the cost of living challenge will continue to be for households. Wow, he must have took an open university course because he says inflation will hit the least well off the hardest. Wow. Oh. Jesus, no, is that true? Billy said if we don't bring inflation rate to target, it's going to get worse. Wow, let's state the bleeding obvious. Well, what are you doing about it? Oh, well, I've raised it by 0.5%. Oh. Elizabeth Truss, the Foreign Secretary, claimed that the bank's prediction of recession was not inevitable. No, it's not inevitable. Said her plan to cut taxes could stave off an economic downturn. You're going to cut the taxes where you're going to get the money for to fund all of your liabilities. Okay, it'll go something like this. I'll cut taxes that will grow the economy. Because the economy is growing so much, that will increase the volume of taxes. So I'll be able to sell more at a lower price, and that will give us the same amount it's selling a little bit at a high price. This is the Margaret Thatcher greengrocer analogy. Taxes are too high. Lower the taxes, that frees up money. That money goes out into the economy. Bear in mind that whatever you buy, you're paying 20% purchase tax, VAT. You know, you buy something, there's VAT on it. It's transaction tax, just a tax. So you cut somebody's tax bill, that shuns that money out into the economy. But you know you're getting 25% of it anyway in tax. You're buying petrol for your car, you get more than that. Sunak said it's wrong, simply wrong. It's not just wrong, it's simply wrong to suggest that high taxes were causing the economic downturn. What's causing the recession is inflation. How do you get inflation? Print money without goods and services commensurate with the increase in the money supply. That's inflation. Inflation is the rate of change in prices. It's caused by pumping money into the economy without services and goods. The idea is the services and goods increase, you gradually allow more money into the economy. You just flooded the economy in 2020 and 2021. Developments came, analysis, energy bills, they could hit 4,200. Yeah, could do. Who knows? The economists, who doesn't say, warned that recession could cost the government 40,000 million in lost revenue that had been earmarked by Truss and Sunak for tax cuts. Bailey, this is the bank lad, fiercely defended the bank's independence. After Truss said she would review its mandate and better contain inflation. Which can change a few words. Labour accused Johnson and Zahawi, he's the new Chancellor for how long, who knows, of being missing in action after it emerged that both men were on holiday. Well, when do you want them to take a holiday? Like, you know, well, they're not allowed to go on holiday. What, they've got to work 52 weeks a year. Why can't they be on holiday? I'm sure Boris and Zahawi or whatever are on the holiday. I'm sure that they're getting a few little updates from people. If something really important, what do you want them to do there? Be stood in the crowd? Woo, 0.5%. What's he supposed to do? Clap? Boo, should be more. Clap, yeah, that's great. What do you want him to do? He's on holiday. Does anybody in Labour take a holiday? Banks raised interest rates 6 times consecutively. Yeah. Sometimes just by a little measly little bit, 0.25%. It's at the highest since 2009 when there was another big crash caused by the mortgage mis-selling in the United States that percolated through to the whole world economy by people buying mortgage-backed security of American assets and finding that they were not worth a life. And the government had to come and bail them all out, spend loads of taxpayer money. Government still owns bits in that West Bank 14 years later. Is it nationalised? No, we've just lent them the money. It's too big to fail. Stand back there. Just pay them taxes. Keep that West going. This is not a contract. The bankers aren't in league with each other. Are you kidding me? Banks now raised interest rates number of times, blah, blah, blah. Forecasted 13.3, 0.333. Who knows? It's more than that now, most people would say. So, the highest since September 1980 and the worst among the world's 7 biggest economies. We are just so laggards. It must be down to Brexit or something like that, is it not? I'm just reading between the lines. That's what you're basically saying. We're always the worst at something, Who's the best? Be them Germans. Them Germans are really good. They weren't good on Sunday, were they? We smacked down little Germans' bottoms and we came away with a 2-1. Yay, well done, me. Germans played well though. I think they were a pretty solid team. Unfortunate, hit the bar, and it was a close game. Interest rates are raised to increase the cost of borrowing, brings down demand. In theory, price inflation is expected to remain high throughout much of next year before falling back to the bank's 2% target in 2 years. My target is to have jam butty, but we cannot have it today. We haven't got any jam, and next year we'll not have any butties. But in 2.5 years' time, we might just be able to get a thin, really thin slice of jam, spreaded jam on a little bit of bread. We might be able to, if everything goes well, and I'm still getting me 500k from the Bank of England. Yeah, but hey, I've got a lot of empathy for them poor people at the bottom. I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm just saying he hasn't been effective. The main factor causing high inflation and low growth, soaring energy. Once the energy comes down, we'll have to find some other reason for why it's a lot of shite. Cost of household gas, yeah. It's all up. 3,000, 4,000. It's going to cost you £4 million a day putting your gas meter. Anybody will be able to go through it. Forthcoming recession, which will start at the end of the year, is not expected to be as deep as the banking meltdown. I said the fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's forthcoming recession start at the end of the year. It's not expected to be as deep as the banking meltdown. No, it's not going to be that deep. It'll be able to plunge across. It'll be really shallow. But it may last just as long. Might last that long. Might last longer. It might last that long. But it just might. We'll just want to cover all them bases. This is not the 70 or 80 American bases spread throughout the world. This is just anything that might happen with the inflation. Could be bad. Might be £1 million a day that you have to pay for your gas. Recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction, but not in the United States. They just didn't like that definition. Now, it's been like that for yonkers, but because that would now mean America is in a recession, and the party that controls America, they've decided that we just didn't like that term. We want to make it something more inclusive, bit more diversity into the meaning of an economic contraction. We'll get a group of experts on, and we'll just redefine it as something else. So we know you've got less money. We know you have to pay through the nose for everything. You used to call it a recession, but it's not a recession anymore. It's a hyperbolic inverse function. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a Putin price hike. Yeah, that's what it is. You just can't use that word recession. Whoa, stop using that word recession. As though that makes any frigging difference. People know what it is, If you smell it, if it's brown, it's got that, you know what it is. You can call it excrement, but everybody knows that it's shit. Unemployment, which is close to a historic low since historics were started off, it's at 3.8%, which is a load of bunkum because there's so many people that want to work but there isn't any jobs, and they're not registered, and all the rest of the scams, and you've got all of the kids who are between 16 and 18 who are on these crappy made-up courses to keep them off the unemployment things so that they can go and do sixth form studies in, nuclear microbiology, or, train to be a receptionist at a hotel for 2 years instead of them going out there and seeking some gainful employment and possibly getting an apprenticeship. So all of them contracts have been carried out in the past, and the government cannot rescind them and go back, otherwise it would bump the true unemployment rates up. The number of people that's on poorly paid money and stuff like that, so we just will not use the term slave labour because that's taken away from it. But it's people are being paid very, very little money. Just like that poor lad who's at the Bank of England, £500,000. What the hell can you do on £500,000 a year? He's knocking around with these other banker pals, and they're all driving Maserati tractors and Ferraris, Porsches. We've got big cars and stuff like that, yachts and stuff. Now, how the hell can you keep up with them? But then again, once he becomes not the Bank of England chairman, head, whatever, whoopee, the money will be coming rolling in. He'll be able to give speeches like, how I empathise with the poor working people who had no money during the recession. Sorry, it's not a recession, it's a hyperbolic inverse activity memorandum or something. whatever. It's a redesignated word. Yeah, Britain's in crisis.
Time to put the kettle on.